Hi, Zia. Welcome.
Hey.
Nice to see you. So basically, I would like to do a consultation with you. Um, the main reason for this consultation is obviously for me, it will be really useful to understand in general what is your current lifestyle and also, your motivations, really what your goals are, and just probably in general, kind of understand a little bit your personality, what drives you. This will just help me kind of cater the program specifically for you. I don't want it to be just like any random program. Of course, I want to fit it into your lifestyle. I just want to make sure that it doesn't, like, you don't need to, change everything in your life to be able to do this fitness goal. So I just wanted to make sure that it's as, achievable and as doable as possible. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's cool. So I have a couple of notes. But just maybe if you could walk me through, what brings you here and why now you want to,
Yeah.
start fitness journey.
So I've always been quite active,
Yeah.
and in my sort of 20s and early 30s, I was regularly going to gym, playing football,
Yeah.
cycling. I've always been quite sort of structured, and I was always able to work my um, exercise around my sort of schedule.
Yeah.
Of late, I've been doing more freelance work, and my schedule has been more unpredictable. And so this has sort of caused me to sort of lose my ability to sort of organize the times that I do this exercise.
Right.
And in doing so, it's sort of like my motivation has sort of been lost because I can't sort of gauge what I'm doing, can't measure my sort of output and
Routine.
my routine and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just basically means that without having that structure, I find it really hard to coordinate my time and to get not even my best results, but to get any results. So
Yeah.
obviously it's quite demotivating.
Okay.
So I guess I'm here to look for the opportunity to work with someone
Yeah.
who can help me structure that time,
Mm-hmm.
give those goals, that guidance, and just ultimately just allow me to get back into the routine of working out. It doesn't take very much for me to get back into like a decent
Yeah.
shape,
Okay.
but it very quickly declines.
Right.
And I'm just getting to that age now where every time I sort of lose that routine, it's a lot more difficult to get back into it. So I just kind of want to get on
Okay.
top of it and then be able to then hopefully maintain that. And I think with working with someone will be a lot more um,
Guidance.
advantageous,
Yeah.
basically, than if I was to do it on my own.
In general, like in terms of the fitness goal, what would you like my help with?
So I think in general my fitness is okay.
Right.
I don't think it's.
Good.
I think I'm um, relatively fit, but I think I'm getting to that stage where I really want to get into the detail of actually becoming strong.
Okay.
So
Building
having getting
strengths.
my core strength, making sure that we're all getting older, and I don't want to get into my sort of mid to latter years and be worried about falls and
Yeah.
uh, putting my back out or
Right.
hurting myself. So I kind of want to build a really good strong foundation on top of what I've already got,
Yeah.
but just to have it sort of maintained.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's an aspect of physically looking better.
Okay.
I'm not too far off again,
Yeah.
but there's obviously room for improvement. So um, my strengths have always been sort of shoulders, back, legs, but where I've always, I wouldn't say struggled, but just been less advanced, which has
Mm-hmm.
always been chest and abs.
Okay.
And so I don't think I'm going to get like rock hard abs, but it's definitely I can work on that area and work on my
Yeah.
chest, and I think that would just even my
Okay.
overall um, proportions out.
Okay. Sounds good. So you feel relatively fit at the moment. That's good. And then, in general speaking, not even necessarily fitness wise, but what do you think? Like, what are your main motivations? I guess in life, like what probably that kind of ties into your priorities at the moment. If I said to you, what are your, I don't know, 3 main priorities in life, what would you say they are?
Well, I sort of touched on it before. It's about sort of a longevity in health.
Okay.
So I'm just becoming more health conscious
Yeah.
and wanting to sort of, I've changed what I've eaten recently. I've been more aware of supplements,
Okay.
for various sources, of course. And then I think just the sort of trifactor is to physically be fit as well. And I think this is ultimately just sort of help balance, um, like I said, longevity of sort of like mind, body, and soul, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's obviously something that's quite important to me.
Yeah.
I My recent work has been more freelance based, like I said, but it's also been a lot more physical, actually sort of building stuff and making things. And I realized I probably lost a little bit of strength that I had previously. So I want to sort of again gain that strength back and make sure that I'm working efficiently, but also safely. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously being stronger is going to help.
Right.
And then I guess, it's, if you think about sort of growing as families and so on, kids is potentially something on the horizon.
Yeah.
And again, being physically strong and able and well
Okay.
for the potential, kids and stuff being in the
Mm-hmm.
picture later on. And so,
Okay.
I want to be able to run around and play football with the kids and do stuff like that.
Okay. So it's kind of overall health and fitness is what's okay. Perfect. And now just kind of moving towards your current, I don't know, routine. Can you walk me through a little bit? Okay, so you mentioned that you've made a few changes in terms of your diet. So how do you feel overall about your diet? Do you think you would need a little bit of guidance of what the, healthy plate would look like, or you think that you're kind of on top of your diet and you're not looking to make too many changes?
I think I'm I think without going too extreme, I don't think there's too many more modification I could do
Right.
to my diet.
Fine.
I think I cook a lot of my own food, very little processed food. Um, Eating out is only really for special occasions and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I guess, and I think I'm fairly well balanced with
And
that.
you're not following any specific diet at the moment, are you?
No, I
Okay.
have a few intolerances, be it um, lactose, and I think I probably have a slight gluten intolerance.
Okay.
So I tried to sort of manage that accordingly.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of supplements, I've been experimenting with a few supplements, and
Okay.
thus far it seems okay. But it's all been quite mild stuff and over the counter, so
Nice.
nothing over the top. Um,
Are you open to making a few modifications in terms of your like protein intake? Just because you mentioned that you want to build strength and muscle, is this something you would be open to doing?
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
I obviously fueling accordingly.
Yeah.
I think is fine. Like I'm quite fortunate. I have mass, so it's sort of
Okay.
like to sort of transfer that mass into muscle. I guess is I'm already ahead of the curve. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
sort of like take protein
Mm-hmm.
to get to a certain
So like
size.
bulk.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
effectively, I'm already bulked. But the idea is, yeah, like if depending on the routine that's put in place,
Yeah.
then obviously accordingly,
Okay.
I know I have to feel like I'm always happy to eat. My problem is normally about sort of like being able to just to say sort of like, no, is that appropriate? But if I'm fueling
Yeah.
workouts, then
Okay.
I'm totally able, like I'm very comfortable with food.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds good. I'm not going to make too many, I guess. Changes in terms of hydration. Do you feel like you drink enough? And
I think I do now. In my early 30s, I suffered with kidney stones, and
right.
part of that was probably like overworking and not drinking the right things and dehydrating.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of as a part of having a genetic disposition for it. Like that was
Okay.
sort of raised its ugly head. Since then, I pretty much only drink water.
Yeah.
I don't drink soft drinks. I don't drink
Sounds good.
juices or anything like that. Like I pretty much just stick to
Yeah.
water, and I make sure I drink a fair amount.
Okay.
Kidney stones isn't fun, so
Yeah.
anything to do to sort of like prevent that.
Perfect.
So yeah, so I think in that
Okay.
respect, I'm probably
On top
okay.
of it.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what about your sleep? Do you think you're getting around 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night?
Definitely not 7 to 8. I probably average around six,
Okay.
6.5.
What do you think? Why do you think it happened?
Um, of late, it's probably been more because, like I said, my work is more freelance based, so obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit more stressful
Right.
and a little bit more unpredictable. So when work comes in, you, I just work around the clock to try and get it done because
Yeah.
it's like time sensitive.
Okay.
And again, it's that sort of lack of routine.
Mm.
Previous roles where I've had a very set routine Monday to Friday, it's very easy to sort of like, be in bed by 10, wake up at 5, get my 7 hours and so on.
Yeah.
When, again, like I said, when I'm freelancing, it makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate.
Okay.
You know, when you're freelancing, if you give a fixed price cost for something, the quicker you deliver it, the quicker you can move on to the next job.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hopefully exercise can kind of set a little bit of structure around it. So if you know that you have, a session in the morning or in the evening, then you know that you might want to do, an earlier night so you're fresh for the morning. So hopefully we can work around it
mhm.
as well for you. And in terms of then physical activity, you said you are quite physical job wise. Do you do any exercise at the moment?
Um, so again, it's slowed down. Obviously, the winter months aren't that
Yeah,
helpful,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
know that's a bit of an excuse, but just my main mode would be like running. So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's weather dependent,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
depending on how wet it is. But running but I do a lot of walking.
Okay.
My recent project, um, not only designing a space but actually building out space, so
Okay.
physical
So
like
moving
manual
all day.
labor, and I'm not only designing but actually physically building and installing
Right.
things. So those 8 hours, 10 hours of working are on my feet, walking around
Yeah.
like on site, um, and physically making stuff. So again, quite physical, but again, it's not structured and it's not
Yeah.
targeting anything.
Okay.
So where
Understood.
I feel like I'm very like agile and can move around and I can do stuff, I
Yeah.
just feel like there's definitely a space for improvement there.
And it sounds like you quite like enjoy being active all day. Well, it's almost like part of your personality to move around, isn't it? It,
Yes, for
it
sure.
sounds like you enjoy it.
My most of my like most of my roles are quite active in terms
Yeah.
of like operational roles. So previous workspace, spaces, like I wouldn't have a desk. I would always be moving around and
Yeah.
working on my feet and moving stuff around. And I know it sounds quite boring, but it's just always being active. I actually dislike sitting down at a computer and
Yeah. Yeah.
working hours on end. And again, that's probably why I tend to do it late in the evening, and probably why it keeps me up quite late because I kind of get it done in chunks
Yeah.
at the end of the day rather than doing
So you use
throughout the
the
day.
day to actually move around and do things.
Precisely, yeah.
Got you. So, and just kind of going back a little bit into the past. So, okay, so you mentioned that you did football, you were quite active, you did gym exercising as well, didn't
hmm
you? Did you do any of this with a coach or mainly by yourself?
No, I had a couple of friends who were you know quite avid gym goers,
Okay,
so I got quite a bit of advice. One of them recommended like a book to me. I put together a
nice.
program,
Okay,
and I basically stuck to that same program. Did it over 3 days, two different muscle groups, abs every single session,
okay.
with a bit of cardio every session as well.
Mm-hmm.
That along with like cycling everywhere and playing five-a-side a couple of times a week. And at the time, I was managing a bar, so again, long
Yeah,
bar hours,
on
like
your
on my
feet all
feet,
day.
on my
Right.
feet all day. So I got into pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. And were you running as well in the past? Because you mentioned you quite like running.
Yeah, running was something which I started again in my sort of probably would have been my late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
Um, I've always been more of a sort of explosive, like
Ah,
sort of runner in terms of at school. I used to do like sprinting.
sprints. Okay.
But then one day I just decided to sort of do running. My brother bought me a pair of trainers for my birthday, and I just started going for runs. Pushed myself, did like a 7.5K, 8K run, and then just said to myself, well, I can do that, so anything else I can do.
Yeah.
So then it was sort of like most of my runs are
Yeah.
around sort of 5 to 7, 8K, that sort of run
Okay.
when I do them.
Sounds good. We can incorporate that for sure. Do you have any aspirations in terms of like marathons, half marathons? I know people, it's quite trendy at the moment. Do you have
Um,
anything of that in your
I've
head?
always thought to myself it'd be nice to do a marathon, but the
Yeah,
reality is uh, it's not high up there on the
okay,
priority.
just curious.
I think what might be a bit more fun in terms of sort of like targets and so on, and more and almost for that social aspect, doing sort of like group events
Yeah,
and sort of maybe even like sort of like 10K runs where they do them around London and so on.
nice,
Something more like that where it's a bit more, you do all this work and then you can actually meet like-minded people and actually just do an event.
nice. Okay.
So I guess there's potential for dates in the year where
Mm-hmm.
training potentially could be aimed towards a specific event where it
Yeah,
might change just very slightly. But ultimately, um, if my diet's right and I'm doing enough cardio and I'm actually doing something structured like exercise
yeah,
wise, I'm going to be able to do all these things.
yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just I just want to sort of have a sustainable maintenance.
Okay, perfect. Good. So that's in the past. And then in terms of your past, again, activities, just to understand, was there something like, I don't know, if you had a specific goal and you maybe didn't manage to achieve, was there anything like that? Or you just kind of exercise to stay fit?
It was predominantly to stay fit,
Uh-huh.
and like I said, it was one of those things where my work was so physical
Yeah.
that actually by being stronger made it easier. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you I don't know if you've ever done hospitality, working 12 hours on your feet, for a lot of people it's very
Yeah, it's
difficult.
challenging, of
But
course.
when you work out and you've got strong legs and you know
Yeah.
you've got that energy, yeah, it energizes me basically. So I used to use it as a tool to become stronger and energizing. Use it as an excuse to head into work early, go to the gym before work because it used to be
Yeah.
around the corner. Meant I was in work plenty of time, sort of on a high because I've just worked out, so all that sort of
Mm-hmm.
good chemicals going through my brain or whatever, and just
Okay.
it just meant that I was able to like start the day right, like my shift right,
Mm-hmm.
especially when that shift might start at 6 p.m. and finish at 4 a.m. like
Yeah.
that sort of style. So like really just geared me up for that.
Perfect. Okay, that's good to know. That probably is good to structure your sessions so that they probably make sure that they're not too, tiring and that actually gives you energy rather
Mhm.
than drains you. So yeah, we'll keep that in mind. And in terms of actual activities, is there something that you particularly like and particularly dislike doing in the
Um,
gym?
I guess I guess we all like the stuff that we're good at. So for me, anything which is like leg work, back work, um, I excel. So
Okay.
I enjoy just because you're doing more.
Yeah.
Um, Again, like I touched on before, abs and chest. I used to bench, but I never used to do anything crazy because I used to train alone a lot of the time. So I would never take the risk of doing
Hmm.
anything. I wouldn't do bench pressing to you know um, failure. Like
Failure.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't do it because there was no one to spot me.
Of course.
So, but doing stuff like legs and working on machines were quite advantageous. I've always wanted to do more
Free
free
weight.
weights,
Uh
just
huh.
because when you use machines, in my experience, you could very easily overcompensate on your stronger side, and
Mm-hmm.
you're still doing the weights.
Yep.
So, learning to do free weights where you're actually having to balance and do the workout. So, like I said, excelling at legs and back and shoulders, where I sort of used to do really well, I enjoyed, and that again would then be rowing machine, running,
Yeah.
cycling machines, because I had
Okay.
excelled in
It
them.
just sounds like you like everything, so
Yeah,
it's
no,
gonna be easy to program for
yeah,
you.
yeah. I guess ab workouts
Yeah.
were challenging just because it's not as strong, if that makes sense. But I
Okay.
guess that's something to
You can
focus
do more
on,
work on it.
and I guess I could be more flexible.
Flexibility.
Um,
Okay.
I have an element of flexibility, I think, for my
Yeah.
size, I guess, but definitely room for improvement.
Okay.
And I guess it's just one of those things where the more you stretch, like I try and stretch before and after sessions.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I don't want to hurt myself, but maybe I can take it that next step where it actually becomes potentially like maybe one day a week is just focusing on that,
Okay.
and be it for a
Perfect.
different medium, be it maybe yoga or just
Okay.
a stretch session or something like that, or Anyway, but yeah, that's for you to work out. But it's that's probably like abs and stretching or being more flexible is the areas where I'm probably not very strong with.
Okay.
And again, like I said, if you're good at something, you tend to like it, and if you're not so good at something, you kind of
Yeah.
dislike it a little bit more.
Okay. Fine. And so, okay, that's nice. And then just kind of segue into more of a current situation and what we can do, and then we're looking into future. What so could you kind of think of your goals for the next 3 months, and then maybe a little bit further for like a whole year? Like in general, what do you think success looks like in 3 months, in a year?
Uh, well, and that's its physical
Yeah, yeah,
attributes.
yeah. In
Yeah.
terms of our program, what would you like to
Mm.
achieve in say 3 months?
I guess a 3 month period. Like I said, I've already got like bulk. I guess like weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around the 90 kilo mark. So I don't think I'm necessarily looking to like lose weight,
Okay.
but definitely convert some of that mass more into lean
So
muscle.
like body recomposition. Okay, perfect.
And and obviously that's going to show itself with being looking flatter on the stomach, slimmer on the sides,
Yeah,
and just obviously more toned.
yeah.
Um, if that equals a little bit of body weight loss, then
Mm-hmm.
fine. But that's not necessarily where I'm like I've got quite big legs and quite a broad back and shoulders. So
Yeah.
my weight for my height it sounds high, but
Mm-hmm.
the way that my body's formatted is
Yeah.
it's kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm not necessarily looking to lose weight, but definitely reshifting that
yeah.
weight
More
into
definition of
muscle. Yeah,
strength.
yeah.
Okay. And what about in a year? How do you think? And I want you to think also, because I feel like when setting goals, I want you to encourage to think more kind of again holistically, and what does it mean for you to be. So if you say I want to be this, what does it mean to you? Like why?
Well, okay. It's in terms of like a longer term goal. I
Yeah.
guess what I would want to do is have um, the going to the gym and doing other sort of
Mm-hmm.
activities, fitness activities like running and cycling, sort of establish in my weekly routine.
Right.
So it actually becomes the that actually becomes my structure,
Your
and
lifestyle
everything
basically.
else works around
Yeah.
it. Because at the moment, up to date and previously, I always used to work those around my work. And now that I've moved into this new phase of freelancing and working differently, I've just dropped everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea would be long term that actually working out becomes my norm.
Yeah.
And then,
That's great, actually. That's a really
and
good attitude.
and if it's done correctly,
Yeah.
then of course I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be fitter. I'm in my early 40s now, so I hate the idea of getting to 50 and then feeling like my body's shutting down. And if anything,
Right.
you know, I want to feel more energized and even more empowered. And I don't want to feel limited by my body,
Yeah.
which I don't feel like I am now, but I know how easily it can drop off.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to sort of, if I install it now over the next year or so and it becomes my norm, by the time
Mm-hmm.
I get to those latter years, hopefully it's not a situation where, you know, my fitness is what lets me down,
Yeah.
achieving my potential or working or
Yeah.
family life and so on.
Sounds good. And so from that, then how much time do you think you can dedicate in terms of the week? Like, what are you looking to? How much are you looking to?
Well, I definitely want to get back into the running, and I think
Right.
reasonably, and running as in not in the gym, but like running,
Outside running. Okay.
just because it really helps me sort of unwind or think. It
Yeah.
just, and I think there's something a bit more agile about moving around, like,
Yeah, of course. And it's great for your brain health as well. So yeah,
so I definitely want to sort of at least do twice a week running.
twice a week. Okay.
And then I think then if I balance the gym, maybe like 3 days a week would be, I think, a
Mm-hmm.
really reasonable, but a really
As
significant
long as you
change.
feel like, yes,
Yeah.
as long as it's achievable, but also a little bit of a challenge, then
Yeah.
yes. It again, be completely honest. Are you open to working out at home, or you'd rather just go to the gym?
I think separate, because I'm because of my status of like freelancing, the home has also become slightly my workspace.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to add another
Okay.
activity which might stress me out in terms of
Yeah.
like being in space or feeling guilty not doing something. So I think I'm very much like a destination orientated person. So if like, you know, dressing the part, going somewhere, and obviously working with someone where someone has an expectation of you and you're having to
Yeah.
be present, I think that's the little push that I potentially need, where I've made a promise, not only financially but like verbally, with someone that I'm going to
Yes.
be somewhere. And so that should hopefully kickstart that routine again. I'm not shy of waking up early and doing stuff before the day starts. And actually, I think I potentially work better. As in, get up, go straight to the gym,
Yeah.
then breakfast, and then starting my day. So
Okay.
actually, you know, 6 a.m. starts are probably where I'm at. Like if I wanted to do gym during the day.
Okay, so 2 days running, 3 days approx gym work.
Yeah,
Okay.
and potentially the run and the gym could be on the same day.
Okay.
Just depending if it fell on the weekend, for instance,
Right.
where I could do a longer session, if that makes
Okay.
sense. And that could be, you know, going to the gym and then going for a run after, or vice
Yes.
versa.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. So okay, so that you can dedicate. And in terms of just kind of setting yourself, I guess, up for success, how about your household? And I don't know, do you have like support? Because it is kind of a bit of a change in your lifestyle. I know that sometimes it's quite difficult because people who you live with may not be supportive, so it kind of adds a barrier. So what is your household supportive in terms of your making a change?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the right kind of change, right? So I guess you would have to have problems if
Yeah,
someone was going to put
lovely.
a block in that.
Do you
But
see any other, sorry, go
no,
on.
no.
Do you see any other barriers that might, hinder your,
The only, well, not in terms of like the people around me,
yeah,
but well, and it hasn't happened for a long while. So touch wood, it's supplements and food lifestyle has changed. But I do sometimes get flare ups in my joints. And
right,
so and this has been something that's happened in the past where, for instance, I'll get a flare up in my knee or maybe my foot, um, and it stops me from doing any exercise. So I
yeah,
probably would need a program that maybe like a parallel program that where this will be my usual program, but if I have an inflammation problem,
yeah,
that there's a series of exercises that allows me to still go, but then working on something else, or it needs to be flexible enough that if I have that problem, instead of me saying I'm not going to
yes,
go today, which then
yes,
would lead for a week, and the longest I've actually had a problem has been like 3-4 weeks, which is rare, but it's happened before. And like I said, of late it hasn't. Like in the past,
yeah,
probably year, I've been okay with it. But ultimately, it's yeah, that's been an issue in the past where it
okay,
just sort of just knocks me, and I have to stop everything because I
yeah,
don't know how to work around it, if that makes sense. Or I don't have the
okay.
support. So,
I hear, yes, okay, we can look
as
into
in
it.
through a professional. I mean,
This is the thing I probably want to clarify, because is this something that, say, if we still do an activity, if there is a flare up, is that, do you have you spoken to a professional to make sure that you can still move and that you're not going to damage,
yeah. So
any further?
the issue I have is just an inflammation of my joints. When I've gone to doctors and specialists, they said by moving I'm not damaging anything.
Okay.
It's just the inflammation is causing pressure, which causes pain. So as long as I can
Mm-hmm.
work through the pain,
Yeah,
I'm not damaging my joints. It's just uncomfortable.
I see. Okay.
So, but again, I've been working uh, on foods that may be causing me inflammation.
Right.
Been taking supplements that counteract inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
and thus far
You've seen improvement.
seen improvement. So
Okay.
it's not the exercise doesn't cause the inflammation;
Yeah.
it's an internal response to something else.
Okay. I mean, I think have quite a lot of information now. It just sounds like you do have quite a lot of motivation and kind of self-motivation. You do enjoy, movement and walking around, running around. It is part of your personality, so I feel like it won't be too difficult to program something for you, as in terms of variety of movements as well. So just to kind of summarize as well your goals. So you said that you want to build strength, potentially grow a little bit of muscle, and also you want to start again getting into running, which again we can kind of build into your cardiovascular endurance as well, which I think would be quite beneficial if you want to run a little bit, longer distances. So yeah, and in terms of food, you feel comfortable with your diet, hydration again, feel quite comfortable. So yeah, I think I have so far enough information. Hopefully we can, create something nice for you. And again, like it's nice that you almost have, like, working with a coach. I kind of want people to understand also that I'm here, to help and support and try to motivate you, but responsibility is in your hands, really. It is, your health. I can of course push you as much as I can, but I really want to make sure that you have, your inner kind of goals and inner motivation, and that you know that you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, so great. Thank you.
Cheers.
And
Thank you.
we'll work on the program.